Well, listeners, there is a very, very exciting tour kicking off in Australia this week. I'm talking about the Sparta tour, and I know a lot of you out there are very, very excited about it. So we thought today we would get Jim Ward on the phone to chat a little bit about this amazing tour. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
Now, mate, we are so honoured to have you on the show, and I have to ask, so many of us are excited about these shows. How are you feeling now that the tour is just around the corner?
Oh, I mean, we're super excited. It's been a really long time since we've been to Australia. So first off, we're just excited to get back. Second off, this is like the very end of this tour, so it's like the best way to end it. Is like one of our favorite places in the world. It's like we're as good as we can be right now, and it's going to be super fun, and it's just good. It's a good way to end this, I think.
Yeah, you obviously have fond memories of Australia. What are your memories of Australia that makes this place so special to you?
I mean, I think it's really similar to West Texas in the sense that it's as much about the people as anything else. I just have good friends that I've made there very quickly. You know, it's sort of like you hang out one night and then you're friends forever. People I still keep up with, people I, stay with when I'm there, or they'll stay with me when they're here. And I think my fondest memories are just kind of hanging out with people, honestly. Just some like really, some interesting folks I've met down there and ended up being really good friends with. So
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, the shows are always good, but, there's a lot of good shows around the world, but what sort of sets, I think, Australia apart is just kind of the general, just the people, the vibe, that sort of thing.
And you've got so many amazing fans here as well. I know even back at the drive-in days, your music was regularly voted into the Triple J Hottest 100, which is probably the highest honor you can get with music in this country. And I know that love has extended to Sparta as well. Have you been aware of how many fans you have here in Australia over the years?
Definitely. It's one reason that I've been back so many times and done. I mean, we went once in the old at the drive-in, once again in 2012, and been like a bunch of times at Sparta, and I've been solo a couple of times as well. So for the amount of energy and money it takes to get there, that should prove how much I love being there and how much I appreciate people, you know, given sort of caring about what I do, in whatever band it is. But yeah, definitely, it's always one of our highest selling tours, one of our biggest markets. Like, I don't know how to put it where it doesn't sound lame, but it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. So the tour so far, how have you found going back and playing this classic album? What's it been like for you going back and revisiting that album?
So first thing is like going back. It's something that I kind of avoided for a long time, and it wasn't until we did. I've told this story a few times, but we did a Get Up Kids tour a couple of years ago, and they were doing like an anniversary record. And we would open, and I would be at the merch table afterwards, and people would be like, "Oh, Wiretap turns 20," and at this point, it was about to turn 20. And I would say like, "Oh, it's cool. It's not really my thing necessarily, or whatever." It wasn't really the greatest part of my life for a lot of reasons. But then I would hear their stories, their relation to the record, and their sort of commitment to not just the record, but sort of the space that record found them in, and how it attached to their lives. And all of a sudden, I always say it's like an epiphany where you realize it's not about you. Like, oh, it's not about me. It's about people who love this record. And then it kind of changed everything. And so we had switched booking agents in the U.S., and the first thing they pitched was like, you should do a 20th. I think it was like right about to be 21st, and I said, yeah, like let me go and play the songs, because we play as a 3-piece now. Let me go and see if it feels good, and it actually turned out to be really fun to play it as a 3-piece. It's sort of a good challenge for me as a guitar player and a singer, and it turned out to be like sort of the breath of fresh air I needed.
Yeah.
And I think I was like maybe a little bit nervous when we played the first couple of shows to make sure people weren't like, oh, you're missing this or you're missing that. And it's been really, really great, because what comes across is just the real energy and emotion of it. And that's what really matters anyway. So it's been cool.
You touched on something there that I've always wondered when artists go back and revisit albums like this. Someone who writes music themselves, there's a lot of music that I've written over the years when I've been in either really dark places or I've written about bad things that have happened in my life. Is it tough on you as an individual to go back and revisit tracks that perhaps you didn't write in your happier times?
It was incredibly hard to imagine doing that, much more so than going and doing it. Once I did it, I sort of rediscovered a new joy in those.
Yep.
But I think it's easy to look back and just be like, okay, that was like one of the worst periods of my life for a lot of reasons. I don't really want to go back to that mental space that made me sort of reminds me of that time period, right? But then you go back and you realize like making the record was the therapy that I needed.
Yep.
So then revisiting the record is like going back to it's like going back to the antidote, you know? It's like going back to the thing that made you feel better about stuff. So all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is actually really joyful and really fun, and these songs are, you know, it's like I had attached all this stuff to these songs, and the songs didn't deserve that sort of attachment. So
Yeah.
going back and being able to play them and sing them and sort of, and that's one of the things I say about this tour is it's not like a replica tour, right? It's not a recreation of that time. It's a celebration of it. So it's me, particularly me, sort of enjoying playing those songs the way I play them now. Like that was the first record I ever sang on as a frontman, right?
Yeah.
So to go back and do it 20 years later is like an actual real joy, because I'm actually much better at what I do now than I was 20 years ago. So it's more fun, I think, for me than I thought it was going to be like gnarly, and that's why I wouldn't sort of commit to it until I practiced it or went through it or sat with it or whatever. And pretty much immediately it was like, oh, this is great. This is super fun.
Were there tracks on there that you'd never played live before?
There's nothing on there that we didn't play live. Like that didn't start happening until the second record, where we just didn't have enough songs, so we played everything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some of those songs had not been played since that tour, for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, you mentioned before about having to go back and revisit the tracks as a three-piece. What was that journey like, going back and suddenly having to do it as a three-piece? What was that like, sitting down and working out those songs?
I think it was like one of those things that was refreshing to me. Instead of going back and being like, sort of falling into the same patterns that, you know, obviously the lineup has changed numerous times, so there's a reason that happens. It's not something that I really want to go back and recreate, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't work for a reason, so I don't want to go back and make that same thing again.
Yeah.
But I think going back and being able to play it with let's just say like a few less voices in the room was pretty nice for me.
Yeah. A lot of artists have told me when they've gone back and revisited an album like this, it's also rejuvenated them in a way as an artist and made them want to write new music. Have you found that as well?
So right when we started this, I just came out of like one of the most productive periods of my entire career. Like I made so many things leading right up to this that I think it was actually a really nice break from. It allowed my mindset to change to just perform this, just think about this, and let all of these new memories and all of these new experiences happen. And now I'm starting to find like I'm getting, you know, like there's songs coming out now. So it took like, I would say, a year sort of going through this whole process to sort of rejuvenate me. But I really believe in that. I don't believe in making records on a schedule. I believe in making records when you're inspired to make them. And sometimes, you know, financially that sucks, because you're like, well, I guess we're just going to be poor for a couple of years because I don't want to make a record. But I do think like longevity wise, it makes a lot more sense. And we've always, at least I've always tried to run my professional life with like art over commerce, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it frustrates a lot of people around me, but I still honestly believe in it, like in my heart of hearts, that that's the right way to do it for me.
Yeah.
So it's giving me like a nice chance to like step away from creating music and then just sort of revisiting it. And also it's a good way to sort of go back and like kind of check in with your, you know, 27-year-old self and be like, what were you doing then? Oh, that was cool. Like, I forgot that we used to do that. I forgot I used to be inspired by this. I forgot that I used to use that pedal. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a way to just sort of go back and like check in.
So with the tour drawing to a close after Australia, what are your plans for the rest of this year for the band? Have you guys got anything penciled in, or are you going to take some time to recover?
So we're going to do a bunch of little things. It's kind of like our plan is to go between, you know, 5 to 10 days a month on the road or studio, and then just kind of keep chipping away at what is shaping up, I think, to be a pretty great record. although it's pretty early days. I really like sort of the way this record was, the genesis of this record that I'm working on,
Yep.
and I'm pretty excited about. One, this tour has allowed us to kind of put Australia back on the cycle, so I'm excited to bring, after this tour, be back on the next one with a new record and be able to sort of play through the whole catalog. So we will be back soon. I mean, let's get there first, but once we get there, we'll be back.
Yeah. So, Jim, I noticed right in the middle of your Australian tour, you've got a 4-day break, which is pretty unusual when bands come to Australia. What are you planning on doing during those days? Have you got some adventures planned, or do you like to get out and explore? What do you like to do on days off on tour in Australia?
So definitely explore if possible. I know one day is a travel day. Probably get in some recording would be my guess, even if it's just like hotel room recording.
Yep.
But like one of those days off for sure is in Melbourne, one of my favorite cities in the world. So I'll be out and about at I don't know if any of the places that I used to go to are still there, but I'll definitely be out and about.
Yeah, we've still a pretty great city, so a few things closed down over COVID, but a lot of the old usual places are still there, so I think you'll probably find that a few of them are still there.
Yeah, I'm sure I will have no problem getting in some trouble.
Yeah. Well, mate, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly, so to finish off, what would you like to say to your fans out there who are heading along to the shows next week?
I mean, just 1,000 thank yous. I still am in shock that I get to be doing this this many years later, and still, like, A, having fun, B, it still feels relevant because of them, because of the fans, and because people care. It's not lost on me. Like, 100%, I know I only get to do this because fans care. So, more than anything, I'm just grateful.